You ever notice how every conversation about generations seems to orbit around boomers, millennials, or Gen Z? Boomers get blamed, millennials get analyzed, Gen Z gets studied like a brand new psychological experiment. And then there's this entire group sitting right in the middle, barely mentioned. Generation X, born roughly between 1965 and 1980. They're your coworker who never makes a fuss, the parent who doesn't overshare, the people who helped build the digital world but don't feel the need to document their lunch. And here's the part most people miss. Psychologically, they may be the most misread generation alive. Gen X was the first wave of latchkey kids on a massive scale. Imagine being 8 years old in the late 1970s. You walk home from school, you unlock the front door yourself, the house is silent, both parents are working, there's no cell phone, no text message check-in, no security camera pinging someone's watch. You make a sandwich, you start your homework. You wait. By the mid-1980s, millions of kids between 5 and 13 were regularly unsupervised after school. That's not a small social shift. That's an entire generation internalizing one quiet lesson. You're on your own. That empty house didn't just create independence, it created consequence awareness. If you burned the toast, you dealt with it. If you forgot your homework, no one was rushing in to fix it. There was no buffer. When parents got home, discipline was direct, rules were firm. Emotional processing wasn't the priority. If you crossed the line, you felt it immediately. Psychologists describe environments like that as high-contingency, actions and outcomes tightly linked, minimal cushioning in between. When your brain grows up inside that system, it becomes highly predictive. You learn to think ahead, to calculate fallout, to assess risk before you move. That's part of why Gen X often seems 3 steps ahead. Not because they're paranoid, but because they were trained early to anticipate consequences in real time. They also grew up watching stability unravel. Their parents talked about lifelong careers and secure marriages. Then divorce rates surged through the 70s and 80s. Corporate loyalty was praised right up until layoffs became routine. The message was simple: work hard, follow the rules, and you'll be fine. Then the rules changed. So what some psychologists might label defensive pessimism, Gen X just calls common sense. They don't expect disaster exactly, but they're rarely shocked by it. They learned to brace. It's not pure cynicism, it's emotional armor. Hope quietly, prepare loudly. Cross your fingers, but keep your guard up, because historically, the rug did get pulled out on, more than once. That armor also explains their relationship with social media. They didn't grow up broadcasting their lives. If you embarrassed yourself, maybe a few people witnessed it. That was the extent of it. No permanent record, no algorithm, no strangers weighing in. To them, privacy wasn't a strategy, it was just normal. So sharing every thought online doesn't feel empowering, it feels exposed. Not because they don't understand tech, they do, many of them built it, but they learned early that visibility can equal vulnerability. Gen X also perfected irony, humor as insulation, sarcasm as distance. If you laugh first, it can't hurt as much. And consider the backdrop of their childhood: Cold War tension, nuclear drills in school, adults talking about mutually assured destruction like it was a routine forecast, duck and cover under a desk as if plywood could stop a missile. When authority figures act like catastrophe is possible at any moment, but tell you not to worry, you learn to hold contradictions. You learn to detach just slightly, just enough to function. Yet despite all of that, their approach to work is striking. They don't perform productivity. They don't announce it. They just execute. Many started working young. Paper routes before sunrise, grocery bagging, fast food shifts where you had to calculate change manually if the register glitched. These weren't internships for college essays, they were direct entry into responsibility. Delivering newspapers meant an entire neighborhood counted on you. Being late wasn't abstract, it was visible. They watched their parents' loyalty to corporations get rewarded with downsizing, so they shifted allegiance, not to companies, but to competence. They may not believe an employer will protect them, but they believe in becoming indispensable. If layoffs come, they want to be the one you can't afford to lose. Here's the paradox at the center of Gen X psychology. They are fiercely independent and quietly communal. They rarely ask for help. They've been self-sufficient since childhood. But if you're in trouble, they'll show up. No fanfare, no announcement, just action. Those deep friendships were forged early, often filling gaps left by absent adults. Loyalty isn't loud for them, it's consistent. Their relationship with authority is equally nuanced. They don't automatically respect titles, they respect capability. If you're skilled, steady, and competent, they'll follow. If you're hiding behind status without substance, they disengage. They grew up watching authority falter. Political scandals, public health missteps, economic instability. Trust became conditional. Economically, many Gen Xers were hit more than once. Some entered adulthood around the dot-com crash. Others were establishing careers when the 2008 financial crisis slammed through. That repeated instability leaves an imprint. It's one reason many Gen Xers diversify income or quietly prepare contingency plans. Not because they're thrill-seeking entrepreneurs, but because they've learned permanence is fragile. There's also a psychological trade-off in extreme self-reliance. Research shows Gen X tends to seek social support less often during stress, not necessarily because they lack community, but because dependence feels uncomfortable. Asking can register as weakness. They are excellent in crisis, calm, resourceful, decisive. But sometimes that strength is built on the assumption that no one else is coming. Even their relationship with information reflects this. Before search engines, answers required effort, card catalogs, library stacks, hours spent locating a single source. When information costs time, it feels heavier, it embeds deeper. Cognitive science calls this effortful encoding. The more work required to obtain knowledge, the more durable the memory trace. They also grew up fixing things because calling someone wasn't the first option. If your bike chain slipped, you flipped it over. If the TV flickered, you adjusted the antenna. Grease on your hands wasn't failure, it was learning. That built mechanical intuition, a belief that with patience and tools, most problems could be solved. Now they're raising children in a completely different ecosystem. Constant supervision, digital footprints, infinite information. They gave their kids attention they often didn't receive, but sometimes they worry, not judgmentally, just quietly. Have we made them too protected, too visible? Because in the Gen X framework, visibility carries risk. Here's the deeper truth. Gen X may be the last cohort that fully remembers what boredom felt like, what it meant to sit alone with your thoughts, to troubleshoot without an answer instantly appearing on a screen. They're not superior, they're not hardened heroes. They were simply shaped during a transitional era when analog was fading and digital was still forming. They're the bridge generation, and bridges rarely get celebrated. They're not flashy, they don't demand attention, they just hold weight, quietly, consistently. And maybe that's the most defining Gen X trait of all, doing the work without needing applause. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing. And if you want to support more deep psychological breakdowns like this, you can join the channel as a member. I genuinely appreciate you being here.